so much for coming on. We got again, I love hearing about your story. I've heard it a couple of times before, but I want to enlighten Jay.
This is going to be my first time of hearing it, but I did some reading and I read about it, and I need to know about them Harvard frat parties.
The first thing he wants to know. The first thing he wants to know.
No, start from the beginning. Let's start from that beginning.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously this is my second country. I've lived here for a lot of years now, so you know I've got dual citizenship. But I grew up just outside of Boston, a little town called Salem, where the witches and witchcraft trials are from. Been movies about it. You know, I grew up. You know, I'll just bring it straight, lower middle class. My dad was a firefighter. My mom worked for the telephone company. Good parents, really focused on family values. I have 2 brothers, 3 boys in 3 years. We were the Hellions.
Wow. Your dad must be tall.
Yeah. So he's passed a couple of years ago, but he was 6'5". My mom was 6 feet. So my mom is 6 feet. So yeah. And I've got 2 daughters, and they're 6'4" and 6 feet. So I mean, like, there's definitely some high genes.
Yeah, you got the good genes.
Yeah, exactly. My parents were really big about education, and you know, both my grandparents and my parents were really focused on sort of doing the best I could do. But I was the first in my extended family to attend college, university. You know, like, our parents were focused on doing the right thing, but they just didn't have the same opportunities. It was a different time. And that's where a lot of the difference got made. You know, I was a ball player. I was a decent ball player. I probably had some options.
You got some stories, haven't you, from the ball games?
There's one of those things that, like, some of my
Did you
other
play
friends,
against any top players?
Yeah, I played against MJ. I played against a bunch of players. So
Have you played golf with MJ?
I didn't. We've been on the same golf course.
Wait, you
but
have?
I haven't played there. No, I haven't played with him because he's a straight up SOB on the golf course.
I know.
You played his course?
I haven't. I've been invited to Grove 23 a few times, but we haven't made it down there yet. But I will, yeah.
And when you get a
Stay
shout,
tuned. Be available for selection.
I'll be available for that.
I was stay available for selection. You never know what's going to happen.
Your dad being a firefighter, that's a really dangerous job. Like, you must have been like worrying about him when he goes to work, and is he coming home? Because that's really, really dangerous, right?
Yeah, but I think, like any good professionals, you realize that they have it under control. They have the fear under control, their technical knowledge, etc. So my father was a firefighter. My brother is a firefighter. He's a deputy chief in the next town over. My uncle was too. I was like kind of the odd man out. They were like, "Hey, what happened to you?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to go here. I'm going to be in an office. I'm not climbing a ladder." But you know, you do hear some of the stories, and you realize, like, yeah, they're at risk.
Yeah.
You know, pounding through a roof with an axe to let the fire breathe, being in rooms that are about to sort of backdraft over you, and
But just
if you don't know what you're doing.
What you said there, Rick, about you recognising that in that situation your dad had to be calm and collected. Yeah. Obviously, for someone like yourself that's so successful, those things kind of resonate with you, and it's all kind of naturally just wears off, I suppose. Would you say that happened at a young age?
Yeah, I think the fact that I can see it, observe it, and know it tells me that some of it must have rubbed off. Like, my dad was also an emergency medical technician, so he was a first responder. If there's a car accident, if the firefighters get there first, he's the first person on the scene administering medical help. And you just realize, like, you know, he's prepared for that. I saw how much he studied, how much he knew it, how much confidence he had in crisis situations. I think I have that swerve, you know. I mean, over your life, you realize, like, well, I have some of that. Like, you're in a big game and you're like, oh, I handled my business. Or I didn't handle my business. You're like, that's what separates the greatest from the great. Like, in those moments, does the world slow down for you and you see it happening in slow motion? Or does it speed up and you feel your heart rate and you start to lose it? We all know it from, you know, whether it's golf, football, you know, basketball.
I was trying to explain that to him. I mean, it's golf now, but on the first tee, I always get nervous. But I played football in front of 70,000, 80,000 people, taking a penalty.
Well, I'll tell you a couple stories. So,
calm.
So Sam Torrance, right, great golfer, Ryder Cup captain, said, if you're on the first tee and you don't get nervous, you're in the wrong place. Like, you're supposed to be nervous. And then when you realize you have to normalize, like, being nervous, that it's supposed to happen, you're like, okay, this is the regular response. It's supposed to happen. Shane Warren was one of my dear friends, really one of my best friends, you know, passed away 2 years ago. And when I met him, was playing in the Dunhill, and I was playing with him, Michael Vaughan, Ian Botham, because I fell into the cricket world. Michael Vaughan's one of my best friends, still is. And we're out there, and I forget which hole it was, and Warren had like an 18-inch putt. And he's like, fuck, I'm going to miss it. 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 And fuck, I'm in. Oh, it's in. And he came over to me and I go, what's wrong with you?
What's going on? Yeah.
Like, seriously, like you can go and get 6 wickets, you know, before the break at the MCG on Boxing Day. He goes, it's golf. It's fucking different.
It's
like,
different.
You know, so you realize, like, one of the greatest clutch performers in sport, in any sport, you know, stacks up in any sport, gets on the golf course and starts to lose his marbles. I'm like, then you realize, like, but that's what makes the game great, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is exactly it. Because I was saying that, even, you know, you play in front of, you know, when you play with people you don't know, you just feel nervous on every shot. When you get comfortable with people,
it's almost like you think they're judging you and looking at you swing and all these fine details. But it's just the stigma you build in your head.
Yeah, it is. Because I feel like people will be saying, he played football, so he must be good at golf. Yeah. And then that gets in my head. That gets in my head. I need to get rid of that.
You want to perform to the expectation. You know, lately in the last, I don't know, 10 years, I have the opposite problem. Like, I'm better in front of the crowd. Yeah. You get people in the stands, watch me, like, everything slows down for me. I'm like, I'm not saying it's show pony, but there's a part of me that's like, oh, I'm just going to get through this. Where, like, when you're playing with your friends, I can wander off and go, oh, I'll hit the shot this way, or I'm just going to make good contact or whatever. Yeah. But when I'm playing, like, with professionals or in front of an audience or a crowd,
you raise your game.
And so, luckily, I've had some great performances at the Dunhill, which unfortunately has caused me to get my handicap cut in the middle of the round. I mean, in the middle of the tournament. Like, the person that owns Dunhill and runs the tournament can do whatever he wants. He's gracious enough to invite us to this all the time. But like, when you're in your second round and they're like, your handicap's been cut by 3 shots, and, like, and your score changes on the board, I'm like, you got to have big ones to be able to handle that.
You try to really do.
Yeah. But I see that every year. Like, I can be in medium form, and I get there, and it brings out the best in me. Yeah. You know, there's just some patrons there. There's 50 people watching on the first tee. There's 500 people on the.
I think that's. You know, on the I feel that as well with being a golfer, and I just think when there's like people watching, like, you just think, okay, I want to put a bit of spin on this one, bring it back, and I'm playing in front of a crowd.
I didn't say all that. I
just but it's like contact. But it's everyone's got their own little things that, like, if you're playing in front of a big crowd, you might try and do something special. You're playing up to a crowd, so I just think because it's like
in football, that's a
different sport. You're trying to put something big on it.
Remember, in football, it's different, right? So depending on what side of the pitch you're going to take your penalties, you know, that's a toss of a coin, right? So if you get the away fans behind you and they're making noise, they're insulting you, there's always one person that sticks out behind the goal and he's saying this and saying that and swearing and whatnot, and it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, good contact in the corner, he's not saving this. I know that. But then sometimes, you know, when you see the keeper moving around, like the other day I see Martinez and his head's nearly touching the bar and he's moving around. All of a sudden you realise he's big. Yeah. I need to put this right in the corner. And that's when you can just change That's when you can, exactly. That's when you can change it and you can miss. Yeah.
In basketball, I don't know if you've seen some of the best stadiums in sort of the US and college. Like, you go to Duke, they were famous for, like, Duke Cameron Indoor Arena holds, I don't know, maybe only 10,000, where the biggest stadiums hold 40,000, 45,000. You know, you can get really big college university basketball games.
That guy that's at Pelicans now, New Orleans.
Zion Williamson.
He was
a lot of people. Kyrie Irving played there.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Jason Tatum played there. I mean, I think Jason Tatum was at Duke. Yeah, I think so. Kentucky. Is it Kentucky? Yeah. Anyway, so they'd be making all this noise, and you get up the foul line. Incredible noise, and then just before you shoot,
silence.
Drop pin silence. Yeah. And you're like, that messes with your head. Yeah. But I've been at other places where we played down the University of Pennsylvania, and literally the crowd's going, Lewis, why are you sitting on the bench? You a scrub. You're a scrub. And then you get off and you take up your warm-ups and you take off your name tag and you throw it on the bench, and they go, dude, why are you going in the game? You know you're a scrub. like you can't win either way. Either you're playing and you're a scrub, or you're on the bench and you're a scrub. And you're just trying to block that out as you're trying to get to your game.
What was that like playing against MJ then? Because obviously that must have been... How old were you and how old was he at the time?
So it was both of our final year in university. So he was a third year, I was a fourth year. He left North Carolina after his third year. But let's see, North Carolina was the #1 team in the country. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated for the upcoming Olympic Games, him and Patrick Ewing. Wow. He was the best player in sport, and they'd won the national championship his sophomore year, the prior year. So with him hitting the game-winning shot against Georgetown, right? Yeah. So he was a stud. I mean, the good thing is I didn't cover him.
No,
I didn't cover him.
You didn't want to.
And his highlight video, "Come Fly With Me," a couple of my teammates were getting dunked on in the video, and I wasn't in the frame. Okay, so there is no historical evidence that he.
How did he carry himself at that point, though?
He was a stud. He played 28 minutes against us. I mean, they beat us pretty easily. I mean, we were a Division I team, but we're an Ivy League Division I team, no scholarships, et cetera. So, completely different kind of program. He had 29 points in 28 minutes. You know, he broke a sweat, but not a lot.
Did he have that aura and stuff then, where everybody wanted a piece of him?
So here's the thing. So we're playing, and we have a shoot around the day before, and and then they have the court after us. So we finish up our shoot around. They come in, and because he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated,
they want to stay and watch.
So they had a whole stack of magazines for the people around, and he was signing it, and our coaches got in the line to get a signed one. I don't care who was but you don't do that. You know the game's over when your coaches play themselves. We're like, I look at my team, I'm going, no, coach is going to get one. Like, no, that's so wrong. Now, it could have been for his son, it could have been for a nephew, don't care. Like,
That's worth something now, though.
No, exactly,
That's mad. And then, obviously from an early age, when did you start to think about a career and start to think about yourself after university, or was it kind of during university?
Yeah, it was university. You of course you want to play ball, and you realize that like there's so many people in the U.S. that play ball. I mean, people asking, they're like, "Why didn't you have a long career?" And you're like, "Do you understand? For the 10 spots that come up, there's 30 teams in the NBA or whatever, 32 teams, and realistically, after you get down to long-term contracts, the people that are coming back, the people that are in the D League that want to come back, every college player." There's about 10,000 people for 10 spots every single year.
That's crazy.
I mean, football is not much better, right? Like there's a lot of people playing everywhere that want those spots, but it's almost impossible to hold down your spot. Luckily, I went to a great school because of my parents' focus and whatever, and so I had options. But it was at school that I really learned the aspiration, and that's what I try to give back in my foundation, is that my university roommates, one of them was third generation Dartmouth Ivy League. Both father and grandfather were chief executives on Wall Street. And the other one, he's a successful business person, but his father gave the student center to the college. Like his name was on the student center. So I'm living with like these two guys. I'm like a knucklehead from Salem, the son of a firefighter, looking around going, I can play a little ball, whatever. But then after a few weeks, I was like, if these two knuckleheads that I live with are the sons of the captains of industry and art and whatever, like play me in, because I can do this. Because if this is the opportunity, say, no disrespect to them, because they both have had good careers and stuff, but you just realize like, I'm not afraid if this is
it,
who they really are. But that's what it takes. It takes like first seeing people like you that are in the game, and that's what we're all doing for young people. Like they see you, they're like, oh, I could do that. I could hit that golf ball, whatever. I could be in that meeting. I could do a pod.
Especially when they see people like that look the same as them as well.
Yeah.
That gives you that kind of
You got to see it to believe it.
Exactly, and that's what this is all about. Because, like I said, for me coming up, it was like, I played football. I'm from a rough area, but the culture and football kind of go hand in hand. Because for me, I just like, you could put down a can and a couple of bags. That's how we'd play football. Yeah. Anything round, we'd play football with a tennis ball, anything like that. But when it comes to golf, it's a bit different because you need lessons, you need to play somewhere, you need golf clubs.
But it wouldn't if you grew up with it and it was everywhere around. If everywhere you went, you picked up a golf club and you were playing hits and whatever. But there's just not a lot of us that have had the opportunity to do that, and they're not around it. And it's an expensive sport, and you got to have membership, and then the memberships in the clubs are only becoming more friendly because they used to be like, who are you? And they've come a long way, but I can still say that like most of the clubs that I'm a member of, there's not any other of me, or there's only a couple of me. And
I still feel like I get that kind of like that look, like, what are you doing here? How are you playing here? Yeah, I feel it. Maybe it's just me, but some club, like I went to play Sunningdale, and I built Sunningdale up in my head so much. Like I thought I was going to drive down a big long, driveway like Wentworth and St George's Hill and stuff like that, and you know, it's not like that at all.
It is.
And then I got in there, and it was just like some,
Yeah.
you know, it's an old building.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I looked, and it's all like white guys on the wall.
Yeah.
And then I was like looking around, and someone said to me, "Are you a member here?" And I was like, "No, I'm just coming for a round." Like, and it just made me feel a bit awkward. Whereas you go to some other clubs, like even Wentworth now, you go to Wentworth, it's pretty relaxed now.
Yeah, what I would say is, I'm not trying to defend Sunningdale, but Sunningdale is a special place in that, like, you think it's like, okay, wait a minute, you hear all this stuff about it, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to go to Sunningdale. The truth is, once you get inside the gates, it's a bunch of kind of knuckleheads and reprobates, I mean, in a good way, that are just going, oh, you like golf? Like, the thing you have to avoid at Sunningdale is that by the time you get to breakfast, you don't have 3 bets. They're like, I got you 2 ways on the front, I got you 1 way this way. You know, I mean, I have a famous story on my playing in round, but I'll keep that for a different time.
So how did you get to Harvard?
Yeah, so, you know, I think first, you know, I went to Dartmouth undergraduate, which is another Ivy League school. And then, you know, Harvard was in Boston. It was probably the place that everyone knew the best. Like, I didn't really know Dartmouth growing up. The truth is, when I was a second year in high school, I didn't know what the Ivy League was. I mean, like, my parents might have known it, but like, it wasn't a conversation. So I didn't really know where to go. And then, you know, I knew that, you know, at some point I wanted to go back to business school. And so that was one of the best business schools in the country. And so.
How did you not teach yourself, but understand for yourself, you want to be you're here now, and I want to be here?
How did I learn aspiration?
How did that
develop?
That
that's the part that I feel like,
because you know, sometimes with people, it's their parents that drive them there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's, you've got to find it within yourself, right?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of everything. I think, you know, I saw my dad go from, like, you know, he went back and got his college degree as an adult, you know, and got an associate's degree. Like, he didn't have to. He had a good job, whatever. He started a business on the side. So he was always like, I'll do something else. My mom was built the same way. My grandmother was my maternal grandmother, my mom's mom, was always a great force in saying, like, you know, so what do you think you're doing and what's next? I mean, you know, I've talked about this in other things, but she was like, look, I've done a lot of things. I made a lot of sacrifices. I came from here to here, but now it's you and your brothers and your cousins' turn. So go build me a village. You know, she was telling me that when I was 10. I didn't know what it meant till I got older, which is like, oh, I have a responsibility to take this from here to here. But I also think for me, you know, whatever it is, I have deep curiosity. Like, you know, the stuff I do, like, you would think that now I'm at a stage of my career and life where I should be calming down, but I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna learn Italian. I'm gonna teach myself Portuguese. I'm a DJ at night. I can, like, so I have
for dinner with my wife, then she's Italian.
There you go. Yeah, so I can make my way around Italian. You'll have to please the thank yous and more conversations. Like, who's this? Yeah. But I think that curiosity leads to desire. So I had a little bit of that cheekiness in me, which is like, but what else? I mean, like, right now I'm at a stage of my business career and life that I'm like, I could just become, but I'm like, well, what do I do with this next section of my life?
You've got to always have something to...
That's what I was saying. I always say that too, because he says to me, a lot of people say to me now, how's it feel to be retired from football? I said, I'm really happy with my football career. Now I want to reinvent myself, but I love the challenge. If I don't have a challenge within me, I'll go mad. I just need something that I can build towards, or a strategy where I can elevate myself again. Actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm not just saying this now because you're here, but someone like yourself, hearing you speak is just giving me that kind of drive to want to reinvent myself even more now and just keep pushing on, because I don't think, we're never too old to learn.
No. Yeah, no, and by the way, I got a few years on you, and that's how I feel. People are like, oh, well, how old are you? What are you doing? I'm like, well, they ask me, like, so, you know, you've sold a big piece of the business, you're still in it, but you're retired now. I'm like, why would I be retired? I like it, there's stuff to do, I'm helping my teammates win. I'm like, there's no reason not to do it. But the thing that you said that's really interesting is, it's so rewarding. Like, the stuff I got into because of my curiosity has turned into, like, building new relationships, building new wealth, like that. I didn't even do it for that. Like, you know, I don't think I've talked about this anywhere, but like, I'm a pretty big collector of art. I started off just a curiosity. I was like, this is a kind of a mug's game. It seems like an insider's game. And like, you're all trading amongst yourself and then giving yourself, and then you just realize that you play yourself in on a small scale, and then it's coming to you. And like, now I have a pretty sizable art collection. I don't talk about it because
I know that I'm not collecting any kind of art like you, but sorry to interrupt you, Trey, but I was exactly the same.
Yeah.
I was around one of my friends, and he's an art dealer and collector, like a big one, generational.
Yeah.
And he started talking to me, because when I was building my house, he started talking to me about, do you like art? And I was like, not really thought about it, to be honest. Like, I've seen pieces where I think that's really nice.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about it. And then he said to me, you should come to Freeze.
Yeah.
In is it Hyde Park?
Yeah.
Hyde Park, yeah. So I went to it and I was like, wow. And then you start meeting people and you realise, as much as there's art, there's opportunities to meet interesting people as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
And it opened up a different world to me. So now I go to like some, art fairs, and he just invited me to one recently. And then I go to his house once a year.
Yeah.
Like, he has it's his family home. He's got a place in Monaco, and the basement is just an art gallery. And it just kind of opened up my eyes. So now I'm not a collector like you, like I said, but I do collect art. Me and my wife, we collect art. We got little pieces.
It's the exact same, because that's what I do.
But he did say to me, don't look at art like how much money I can make. Look at art like I like the piece. See what happens.
So I have a rule that I don't buy anything that I don't want to hang in my homes.
Yeah.
Like, zero. Like, things have been presented to me that, like, this is going to be in the money. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like the piece. Because I want it that if it doesn't play out, because I'm not investing, because I have an investment mind, I want it to be able to hold value or make money. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm buying because I like the piece, because if it goes down, I still want it on my wall. And that's protecting me. And there's things I've walked away from that I thought, they made a bunch of money, but like,
Yeah,
you don't want to buy that thing that you're like, I hope it makes a bunch of money. There's no market for it. And you're like, I don't like the damn thing, and no one wants to buy it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with what I got, and it's on the quiet.
Yeah.
But that all came from curiosity.
I'm intrigued with art as well for some reason. I don't have a clue about it or anything like you guys will, but there's something. There's something about it. You know, when you walk in a building, you're like, that's nice. And then you start thinking, okay, maybe I'll get something for my house or something like that. I'm intrigued as well, as much as you are, so you're going to have to educate me.
I mean, my wife's Italian, so like, a lot of, memorable pieces come from Italy and made by Italians. But she's like into art. She even likes art, furniture that's art. Oh yeah. She likes those kind of things, armchairs and sofas and whatnot. So she has a real eye for that. She was an interior designer, but now she's got her own tech platform, which is generally for interior designers.
Oh, great! Yeah.
So to be honest, her Italian part has kind of educated me even more. Like my mum and dad, I love them dearly, and they was always there for me. They always gave me what they could afford, to the point that they racked up debts and whatnot. But if I ever needed financial advice, I would go to her mum and dad, because they've lived that life. They had their own businesses. Like my mum kind of told me, and my dad kind of educated me in sorts of friends. Like, he would be kind of ruthless about it. It'd be like, a lot of these people you're going to school with now, you'll never speak to again when you're older. And your friends won't pay your bills. Hard work.
They'd be jealous of you.
Be comfortable training by yourself. He installed mental toughness into me, whereas, the academic stuff, the investment stuff, that was more my parents, my wife's parents.
Yeah, I think it's a really big thing that no one talks about, is that because, let's just say, our collective community is still coming up and isn't in all those spaces that have been the leaders of sort of business and politics. It's changed now where it was 30 years ago, but it's still not there. During my career, I didn't have many people to ask that question to. There weren't many people that were like me from my background that I'd go, okay, so I'm on my first board, how do I do this? Or I'm chairing my first board, like how do I think about it? So I was always picking up pieces from a constellation of other people, and and that's where the curiosity served me well, because you're trying to figure it out from people that like aren't your uncle. You can't ask. Now my parents instilled in me like integrity, trust, planning, all that stuff, like the fundamentals that made me who I am. But all that other stuff, even stuff that I do now, like, so how do I think about the next, I'm not going to say last, 25 years of my life? Because, I'm trying to figure out, like, there was a time where I was like, wait a minute, I'm 6'10", who's an 85-year-old 6'10" black man? Bill Russell died last year, but he was my guy. I was like, and he died Bill Russell died at like 87, 88. I'm like, good. because you can live to be that
He's
long.
one of the
I'm like,
best basketball players ever.
yeah, by the way, the question is like,
He's
like,
a few generations.
yeah, so people go MJ or LeBron or whatever, and I go, well, MJ I do think is the best player. Never lost in the final.
Rick, you thought mobile phones come out in the 60s.
He brings this up to every guest. Every guest he brings this up to.
Because we're like ringing on the landline.
No.
Is Trey home? He's not here. But so the answer to the question that few people know is who won the most NBA championships? Bill Russell won 11. 11 championships.
Yeah.
Jordan won 6. But Bill.
But he done he's three-peated twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Jordan, that was like.
No, I know. No,
that's the reason why I think
he never lost the final. So
he never even went to Game 7, did it?
So Game 6, they always say. Yeah.
Exactly.
Stephen A. Smith was saying today, he's like, look, I love LeBron, but Michael Jordan's the GOAT because one, his resilience, he took on every one of his nemesis and beat them, never lost a final. I mean, that argument will go on forever. But Bill Russell, young people don't know. Like Bill says, he had more rings than fingers.
Yeah,
had 11
that's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy when you think of it like that.
And he did it at a time which was like really difficult for black people.
Oh yeah, no, he was in both college and whatever. Like, he was crossing the lines. He was also a civil rights leader, all of that. But yeah, he wasn't playing. And I don't care whatever it's in. You win 11 of anything, you're the man.
Yeah, was there many black people in Harvard when you went there?
Yeah, there were by the time I was there, not many, but plenty. Yeah, and black professors and.
Okay.
Administrators and stuff.
Because the stigma in my head is that, there probably wouldn't be a lot, but.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is a little bit ahead of here, and the Northeast is ahead in the U.S., and Boston's in the Northeast, so it's a little bit more progressive. I don't mean that there isn't prejudice and racism and whatever that exists everywhere for a whole bunch of different reasons and people, but it's a little different than here. When I moved over here, now almost 25 years ago, so that would have been in the late 90s. I felt like it was the U.S. in the 70s in terms of integration.
Really?
Yeah, and I felt like I got treated better. I don't mean to be controversial, but as a foreign black guy, foreign well-educated black guy, I got passported into things that you would have found harder. Because they would be like, yeah, he's really bright, but he's a footballer. Yeah, he's really bright, but he went to that school. Where I was like, is he well-educated? Oh, he went to Dartmouth and Harvard. Oh, and he's a black guy, and he's from the Northeast, and whatever. I was in a different category than even someone that went to Harrow and Eton because they were like, yeah, I know his parents. Yeah. Or they came from there, or he's Nigerian, or he's Ghanaian. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't put me in a box. And then when they did, they were like, oh, he's an athlete too. Yeah. So at Sunningdale, like some people either thought like I was, cool because I was well educated and went to these schools, and other people thought I was cool because I was an athlete, and I was like, I'm actually not really worried about what you're thinking about.
They're just building that stigma up in their heads.
In my playing in round, there was a guy that's now passed away who was the guy that was supposed to play with me just before the captain did. And he said, I'm your third round before you go to the captain. And he said, I'll meet you on Saturday at 9 o'clock. He goes, how will I recognize you? I said, I'm a 6'10" black guy. If you can't find me at Sunningdale, we got a problem. And like, not only did he laugh, but like that went around the club, and that made my personality there. They were like, oh, he's cheeky just like us, right? Like, so the truth is there is an exterior, and there's always going to be some people in every club that like aren't comfortable because they're not comfortable with themselves. But the club itself is like, they're like, no, man, you hit the ball, you talk trash, you like a bet, whatever, like you're one of us.
When did you actually start finding the love for golf for it?
So my brothers and I played like 22, 23 sports. We played everything. Yeah. Like everything at like every level, from schoolboy to county to...
Is that what your parents installed as well, to try everything?
They were like, yeah, you got to try it, and if you try it, you got to stick with it for at least a season. So you had to pick carefully, because if you hated it, you weren't quitting. But we were competitive. We had a family championship in every sport between the three of us. And my dad was 20 years older than us, so when he was 40 and I was 20, like we're still balling against each other. I still remember that day. Like I'd get him a low post. I'm back from college. I'd turn and dunk on him and hanging on there. And he goes, "Yeah, we're done here." I was like, "Oh, you don't want any more of this now?" Yeah. Whatever it was, but yeah, we were pretty competitive. But my dad picked it up because of the other firefighters. They have 4 days on, 4 days off, so they have a lot of time. They have side businesses. They all played a little golf. My dad was playing, and he was really bad at it. Really bad at it. And he was a good sportsman, so he hated it. And the clubs were there, and I picked him up and started playing, and I
How old were you at the time?
I was probably 14.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had a job in the summer, but I had a job at night, so I would go out and play. And at first I'd play 9 holes, and then by the end of the summer I was playing 72 holes. Like I was at my golf course, and because I was the only black kid, like everyone knew who I was, so they just waved me in. I'd be the 3rd or 4th in their group. I'd play through their groups and play, and like they're like, "How many today?" I'm like, 54. They're like, "What?" On a 9-hole course.
Is that how many balls you lost?
No, that's in the beginning, yeah. But on a 9-hole course, I'm just looping the course and looping the course, and I became a pretty good player. But basketball got in the way. I mean, I played competitively a little bit in golf in high school, and then I just didn't.
What position did you play? Center or power forward?
Because of where the game was. So this is a history lesson.
Okay.
Now every 6'10" guy is built like a truck and can do everything.
Yeah.
You know, like you see Wembyama, he's 7'6". He's between his legs
Crazy,
shooting the 3.
yeah.
But when I played, and this is dating me, it's like 6'10" guy was either a forward or a center.
Yeah.
I was more nimble and faster than someone my size. So around the outside, I'd love to play 3.
Yeah.
You know, played a lot of 4, got forced to play 5.
5 was, I watched 5.
5 was back to the basket, you're just banging in there, whatever.
Like, yeah.
You're hustling in there.
Yeah. But now, like, you know, no one would think like
6'10" guy that can 6'10", right?
Is 6'9", yeah.
6'9", yeah.
Anyone that can run the lanes at 6'10", they're like, no, you go do you. But back then, they were like, no, you back to the basket, you get in there.
Yeah.
Point guard will give it to you. You know.
So do you like? How do you like soccer, football?
Oh, I love it. So I'm a huge Arsenal
What's
supporter.
your? And he's from North London as well.
There's too many in here. There's too many in here.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, I had season tickets for a long time, and then just life gets in the way, so you don't get to as many matches. But there's never a match that I don't watch every single goal in the highlights. Yeah. Ever. So I either watch it live, or I have 3 different ways to sort of watch the highlights.
I'm exactly the same. I feel like it's a religion to me. Like if I don't see it, I feel like I've missed out. Yeah. I just want to see it. And you know, like sometimes now with social media or whatever, you're like, did you see that goal? And I'm like thinking, man, I wish I had seen that.
Just there,
there and then, yeah. My reaction, because it'll be different when it's a tough game or whatnot. But hey,
I've been doing it for years.
Tottenham the other day.
No, exactly. Yeah. The 3-0.
I had some people on toast.
Here's how great it is. My mom, who still lives outside of Boston, is a huge Gooner.
Yeah,
really? Like she watches every single match, and I'm texting her live down the match. I'm like 1-0. That's it. That's what we want. She's like, yes. I mean, my mom's 82 years old. Like, because she came over, I took her to a lot of matches. That's her team. She never misses a match ever.
Really?
Wow,
she
that's
watches.
amazing.
It's actually huge over there, Premier League, isn't it?
She watched the Man City match against North Forest, just hoping they get a draw. And she's texting me during it. I'm like, and she didn't grow up with football. She didn't grow up with any soccer. She just loves Arsenal.
She just loves it, yeah.
And she's coming over on Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we'll watch some games, matches live.
Talking about football and its comparison to golf, obviously football's fast-paced, exciting to watch. What do you think golf can learn from a broadcasting perspective and actually a business perspective of bringing new people, new audiences into it and being able to watch it, making it a bit more appealing? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we've got to make
a different sport, isn't it?
It is a different sport, and I'm not sure you can compare it to football, but I think golf has been trying to do it, and you guys have been involved in some of it. We've got to make first entry feel comfortable to people. I mean, you know, we all have our own experiences or stories about how we weren't completely comfortable with it, and we're successful people that have been in a lot of doors and a lot of doorways and a lot of situations, and you still can be walking in going, what should I do here?
Yeah.
By the way, you remind me to tell you a good story then.
You got to
on Augusta. Because like my first trip to Augusta National, that was one of those moments, and it was set up, it was completely comfortable and wonderful, but I was so worried about meeting a member that it actually set up the situation. But I won't be able to use some of the words on camera.
Okay, yeah.
So.
I mean, we can.
Cool.
If you feel comfortable with it, we can.
No, it's a colorful joke. But, yeah. The guy said, I've never heard the joke before or after, but we
do after.
So I think the things are, first we've got to do a better job with entry. You know, making people feel comfortable, and I think golf clubs are trying to do that, and I think we've got to do 5 times a better job of making it more accessible and more comfortable. And then we got to work on the adjacencies. You know, whether it's East Side Golf in the U.S. that's teamed up with MJ and Nike to create, you know, kit and fit that feel like more like us, but is still respectful of the game, so that people can feel like, hey, I'm actually wearing what I want to wear. Like even this now is acceptable.
Yeah,
you know, at a Sunningdale or
yeah.
Queenwood, where it wouldn't have been 10 years.
Is it acceptable there as well now?
Yeah. I mean, it used to be. Yeah, this is Queenwood.
Oh, it's Queenwood. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
but 10 years ago, it used to be, you know, at Sunningdale, I'd be like wearing shorts, and I'm like, I really have to wear long socks. Then they made a combination I could wear socks that were just above my ankle. That is going to scare off 99% of the people that grew up like we did.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but now you can wear peds, whatever. Like they realize it's about the game. You have to be respectful to the game, not turn up in jeans or torn stuff or in dirty, raggedy clothes. But once you do that, like you should be how you feel. So that's one second thing. The third thing is the stuff around it. You know, whether it's the food, the entertainment. Again, being respectful to the venue. If we can make it feel where people go like, actually, I like hanging out here.
Yeah.
This feels like not quite like my house, but somewhere between my house and my community and the golf course. But I think that there's a lot of vested interest that I don't think they're trying to block people out. They just don't know how to do that.
They haven't adapted, and they don't almost know what the path and the journey looks like to be able to make it how we want it. Because we were at a school last week in Tottenham. What was it called? London Academy of Excellence. And we went in there and we were doing a bit of an initiative with the Golf Foundation to basically introduce golf to some kids who hadn't played it before. So we went in that school. There was about 35 kids in there. And straight at the start, we asked who'd played golf before, and one hand went up. Yeah. And that was Crazy Golf. So
she was Spanish as well, wasn't she?
She was Spanish. Yeah. She did it on a holiday. These kids just aren't exposed to the game. And I think things like that we can get in there and get into some of the schools and just get clubs in hands. Like all of a sudden, at the end, they were loving it.
But even places like here that are more accessible, sorry to cut you off, but like, you know, you might not be able to get them to the golf course right away because that is like, it's a journey, and how do you get them there, and then have the equipment. But like, the equipment's in here. Let's just get some kids equipment, and then, you know, maybe,
but that's what we're doing. We got
well, you already do it here. But doing that more often, where you go, no, it's Kids Day, and then getting some of us to be here on a regular basis. We're like, show me that swing. Oh, that's swing. Sit down, you man. That ain't nothing. Here's how you hit the ball. You know, it makes them feel like, you know what? Actually, there's people I like and admire that are playing the game and treating me like my uncle would. They're like, that in the swing. Sit down. You know.
But that's what we did the other day. So when we was at school, I think when you speak, and these kids were like 16, isn't it?
Yeah, 16.
Yeah. 17. So like, but you know, when you go and speak to kids, you'll definitely know this. They all seem shy, quiet, reserved. And then it's up to you to make them feel like comfortable. So they start feeling like, oh, hold on, this guy's like us. He just wants to have fun. He wants to have a good time. And that's what we did there. And like, they ended up loving it. It was good. And they said that we got our golf down the 20th of September this year. Yeah, I know.
My mailbox must be broken because I
we don't invite you fast.
Can't get through the front door.
But they said they're going to come down.
Yeah.
And I thought that's so good that they feel like after that one day, which we spent like 2 hours there, they felt like, you know what, I want to come and try this. I want to see what it's all about. Which I think this is what it is, making it more inclusive to everyone.
And it surely can't be just us to do that and tell that story. Like, I know it starts with like guys like us that have to get into some of these places and do it. And for example, someone like yourself provides scholarships to people and just show that there is a path and career in this game as well. You're not just playing it. It provides you, like you said earlier, all the life skills and everything to go with it. Like you can hold a conversation with someone in public and be on a course for them for 2 to 4 hours. It's so much.
But we also need to show the people that manage and control the game that this is an untapped resource. You know, whatever it is, 6%, 10% of the population, whatever. That, like, do you think that we're not going to find some superior athletes that are going to be as good as anyone here if we start mining it? And I think that's just the short-sighted view.
It's true.
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, you know, I don't want to go too down the racial lines, but like 50 years ago, football, basketball, you know, I mean, or maybe longer in basketball, all the other sports had one majority population. Now that's flip-flop. Because if you teach, I'm not saying there's better athletes, but you know, sometimes it's hunger, it's determination, it's creativity. It's like there's a bunch of people that are like, you know what, give me that. I'm going to play better than you. And I'm going to be obsessed by it because you know what, I don't have anything else to think about.
I'll tell you what's funny, Rick, when you watch basketball now, a lot of the team is black. Now the minority is white. If you see a white guy on the team, you'd be like, he must be good.
No,
Just because you don't see them, it's kind of like...
I don't want to go too far on this, but American football, what do you think of it? In the 40s and 50s, it was all white teams. Now you find a quarterback and a kicker and maybe a couple running backs that, in skill positions. Now, that's not fair. There's players at every level that are white and black. But, I don't know, what's the number now? 2/3 are black? 75% are black? Or foreign or
like you always say, Jay, it's the access though, isn't it? Like the hunger comes in, I'm going to go down the street and I'm going to find a basketball court and I'm going to get fucking good at that game. You can't do that with golf, can you?
No.
Because there isn't the entry and access.
But the thing that's changed in golf is that there are simulators now.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't the same because you'd rather hit balls in open air than in a sim. But you can now do it inside and in the inner city and in locales. And so we need more of that. Like there's just places like, because I've seen
in Japan. Have you been to Japan before?
Yeah.
They've got loads of sims everywhere. They'll have it like above a shop or something. Yeah. They've got loads where people just go in there, like even before nights out, they just go in there, have a hit, and then all of a sudden they keep doing it, and then like, actually I like this sport. Yeah. Then they end up on the golf course. I think now with places like Pitch and other places that are getting built, I think more of these will help it be more inclusive to everyone else. People might just come and try it.
And you see how much fun it is. I mean, like I'm here at Pitch, they understand how to make it fun. Like you can have contests among yourself. So I have one at home, and when I train with my trainer, we'll train and then we hit balls against each other, like closest to the pin. So like I don't really need to do it anymore, but it's kind of conditioned training. Yeah, like I've got to go do the workout, the sprints, lift the weights, and then I've got to hit 3 balls close to the pin. So like when I get on the course, I'm like, I didn't do any sprints. This is easy.
Yeah. We did that last season. He didn't hit the green.
Right. No, exactly.
He didn't hit the green.
But the fun part is that it makes it fun, and he's having fun too. He's should we turn the sim on too? Yeah. So it's like it's part of the training, and you realize it can be so much fun for kids if you come in and go, okay, all right, you've been hitting balls here. Now I'm going to see if you guys can handle the pressure. Anyone that gets inside of 5 feet is getting this.
We're always arguing about that. We're always competing. All the time, even though it pains me to say this.
Rick, like, even though we're just chatting, he's finding a competition.
We always have competition. I mean, that's the beauty of our relationship, though. But I was going to say to you, obviously you have Black Heart Foundation as well. How did you start that?
Same thing, curiosity. Like I got to the place where I had some means that I wanted to give away, and I wanted to do something like to help people in the way that helped me. So I was doing things and I was on boards, and then I thought, God, you know what, if I really think about my business world, I should get this better organized. So I decided to figure out how to organize my giving and my activity. I was on some boards, and I said, I should create a foundation. I was kind of taking the piss with myself, because that was like, that's what big people do. And then I went and checked it out. I was like, no, you need to file with the Charity Commission. Here's how you do a 509(c) in the U.S. Here's how you do it here in the U.K. It was filing, it's legal, it cost you some money, and I was like, now I have a foundation.
Made sense.
And it's tax.
So it wasn't someone that actually had heart problems?
No. It's all about education.
Oh, okay.
So the Black Heart, the story on why it's the Black Heart is that when I would go to play golf, my 2 daughters would find golf balls in my study, and they would draw black hearts on them and say, love you, daddy, or play well and whatever. And when I was trying to figure out how to incorporate the foundation and get a logo, I was like, that's sitting right there.
That's it. Yeah.
So I began the Black Heart Foundation, and then we kind of made it iconic. And because we don't sell the caps, of course, everyone wants them. That's another thing I learned is if you can find it, nobody wants it. If you can't find it, everyone wants it.
I had a heart operation.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It was strange because when was it? June 2022. So I was playing football. I was in Japan at the time, and played a game. I felt good. Towards the end of the game, it was injury time. Twisted my ankle, but I carried on, finished the game, felt fine. Got back to training the next day, just having treatment, and then the manager said to me, have 4 or 5 days off because it was an international break. Yeah. So he's like, have 4 or 5 days off. Don't worry about it. Maybe just do some conditioning, weights or whatever. All good. Anyway, went back to training. And I went with the conditional coach first, just to see if my ankle was all right. And we was doing 30-yard sprints, and all of a sudden I just couldn't breathe. I was gasping for air. And I was like, this ain't right. Something's wrong. And I thought, sometimes I get hay fever where it kind of...
Yeah, like you need an inhaler kind
wheezing. Of hay fever. Yeah. And so I tried that, not that. So I trained like this about 3 days. And then it got to the Friday, obviously before a Saturday game now. And I went in and I just said, listen, I want to play tomorrow, but can I just go for a respiratory check quickly? So in football, as you know, that they'll do like a heart check before the season, at the end of the season. So my resting heart rate was low anyway. It was like 36 beats per minute.
Wow.
But that's because I was fit.
Yeah.
And then when I went there, I was like over 100 beats per minute, and it was like irregular.
Yeah,
and then they said, listen, you're going to have an operation like in a couple of days. And I was like, okay. And at the time, I remember like my first thought was, I've played football for 22 years. I've had a good career. I'm happy, like, if I have to retire. Obviously, I had the operation and it was, woke up. And then I said, so will I be able to train again? And he went, you'll be able to play in about a month. Yeah. And I was like, play football? And he was like, yeah, you'll be all right to play, yeah. And then I finished out the season, and then they offered me another couple of years, but I just decided at that point, because of COVID and what happened, I was without my son. I just said, you know what, let me just come back more. But that's when I started what I call playing golf, because now I'm practicing. You can't play if you don't practice. You know, so for me, and that's why I'm competitive with you, because he'll pick up a club now and go in there and just hit balls, just like I would if I was playing football. Yeah. In my mind, I know how I became a professional playing football. That's by hitting loads of balls, practicing control. I need to do that with golf now. So that's kind of where I'm at, as in I want to challenge myself, and what better person can I challenge myself with? A pro. Yeah. I feel like when you play with people that are better than you, you elevate to that level, or you try to. Yeah, no, if you play with people worse than you, you can...
No, and there's nothing better when I can tell you a famous story of some common friends. Yeah, Zane, I'm going to tell this story. So we're at St. Andrews and we're playing, and it's myself and Michael Vaughn against Zane and Matt Dawson. And Zane shoots 64, and we beat him 2-1. I was like, bitch. I was like, shut 64 doesn't win. Right? Like, so like, he's like, whatever. And I have this thing, like at a clutch putt, like I turn the black card cap backwards, and he's like, don't do that. I'm like, I'm roll this leg in right now.
I like that.
Like, it goes in, so he's like, oh man, when he turns the cap around.
Yeah, that's it, game
But then we were out at Queenwood, and I had, Zane was there as a guest, and it was just him and I playing. And maybe we're in a 4-ball, and I played and I beat him like 1 up. And I was like, dude, not gonna that last time I looked, you got 2 L's from me. We played a week later. He had 8 birdies and an eagle, and he said, any questions? I was like, pro's gonna be a pro. I have a friend, John Starks, that played for the New York Knicks, and he says like, so he played against MJ as a famous.
And the point guard,
where he
right?
dunked on point guard number 3, And he's friends with, friends of mine, and he'll say to you, so like, how many shots you want? He's like, I'm a 7. He's like, what are you, Starkey? He's like, I'm a 2. And he goes, the thing I'm comfortable with is I'm always going to be a 2, and sooner or later, you're going to be a 7. In this round, you're going to be a 7. So like, he's like, I'll find you at the end, because I'm still going to be a 2, right? And that's the thing. Pros are going to be pros, and at some point, they're going to be a pro and beat you down.
They just find a way, don't they? You beat me once, I'll give you that, over 9 holes at Kinter North. I think you beat me on, but
I was just, when you just on fire, everything was on fire, and his game was no, you know what I'm going to say.
My game was bad.
It was good. It was good.
Watch the video. It was bad.
Was good. No,
it was
good.
bad,
it was
bro. So I got to tell, because this is golf. I'm coming off from the reigning champion with Zane Scotland at Queenwood. We won the Queenwood Cup.
Oh yeah, the Cup, yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah. I see that.
Which is, I mean, it was one of the greatest sport moments of our life, because like we played hard, and like we started on 2, so we finished on 1, and when we came to the clubhouse, we thought we had made a bogey on 17. We thought, oh, this has been a great round, thanks, brother, and they're like, you're 1 shot behind. So I turned to Zane and I go, can you smell it? Can you smell it? I said, birdie, we get in the playoff, eagle, we win this thing. Yeah. And we get down there. I put myself in good position. It's a par 5. He hit a ball. I got to show this. I just thought about some part of the story I'm going to have to tell a different time. But he curved a ball around the bunker coming into 1 as it was downwind, and he had 25-foot putt. And I said, should I just get up and down for the birdie and make you comfortable? And I was like, oh no, you're a pro. You're already comfortable. He hit this thing 5 feet out. I was like, that's in the hole. Just tracking the whole way.
Hold it.
Went in, so we finished 7 under. Wow. And so, I mean, the people in the field, they're probably not watching this, but Rory, Rahm, Fleetwood, you know, everybody. And Rory was the defending champion times 2. So like every time I go, I have guests out there. When we go out there, I go, look at that. May never happen again. But, you know, how great was it, you know, 2 guys.
That's amazing.
You know, mixed heritage, black guy out there at Queenwood, very comfortable. And we beat the field. We got into the tournament as an alternate because, you know, for some reasons we were like late getting in and no one saw us coming up from behind.
So if Jay gets a membership, maybe we can enter. Yeah, you're gonna get a membership.
If he gives me a scholarship.
Rick, just one to finish on for me. Obviously, yourself being so successful and being around so many successful people. What is a trait or some principles that all successful people, in your opinion, all have in common?
The one thing that I'd say is curiosity. I mean, you're like, you know, if you are self-satisfied and you stay in the place that you are, you don't learn about the next thing. You don't want to know about, you know, your backstory and your lived experience and yours. There's always something to glean from those things. You know, I want to know, like, well, how does that work? And, you know, am I interested? And would, you know, if I could, would I do it? You know, like, there's so many things there. So I think a lot of the great people have curiosity. How do I get better? How do you know, like, who's training different than me? You know, like, you know, right now I'm thinking about, like, what is the shortcoming of my golf game? And it's that I'm a field player, and I know that I've got to be a little bit more technical with my wedges. But I've only figured that out in the last 2 or 3 months, which is like, I got to go to 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock and whatever. But that's not how I normally approach the game. Other things are, you know, I want to say integrity, but I've met plenty of successful people that don't have integrity. But I like to believe that integrity. I think that successful people build relationships well, whether they're introverted and it's just a couple relationships, or they're extroverted and it's a lot of relationships. It says a lot about sort of how, and it feeds the curiosity and information flow. Like, do you get along with people? You don't have to be everyone's best friend. Like, I think that I get along with everyone, but I'm pretty picky. Like, I want to hang around with the people I want to hang around with, and I'll be acquaintances with the other people. Like, you know, life's too short. You know, I mean, you know, the world moves fast and forces you to ration your time. So you got to do the things that you want to do. And I think that the last thing is that people know themselves, know what they're good at, and know what they're not good at, and aren't afraid to admit it. Like, ask for help, because, like, I'm good at these things, but I don't know anything about that. And you can have the humility to do that. Part of that is actually knowing what kind of smart you are. Everyone is smart, but we're smart in different ways. And if you want to pretend that you're smart in this way and just keep getting punched in the face, well, have at it. But if you realize, I'm smart in this way and I'm going to go get teammates or help or advice on the other things,
and the whole thing grows.
It's almost like a humility about just going, like, this is who I am.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing I've just noticed today, and this is the first time I've met Rick, by the way, on camera. But you seem like really, really humble, and that is what, to me, I look at you and I feel like that's infectious. That makes me want to spend more time with you, because I feel like this guy's really humble, but he's so successful. He's had a journey from the bottom all the way up to the top, but you still come across like the person you grew up as you've explained.
Well, because that's the fun in it. I mean, look at the stuff we've been talking about off camera. But that's it. When you meet people and, like, you're starting to have a laugh, and, like, we've already seen how many things we have in common. Like, I didn't know that going in. I knew of you, and I knew about you, and I knew a little bit about your career. But you just realize, like, oh, actually, this is just another human being, and, like, playing off the same handicap. I want to see that up close. We're
gonna find out.
I have one question to ask you, though. One question, because this is important for me personally, from where I grew up as well. Because I got asked it, so I'm going to ask everyone this going forward. If you have £100, £150, and you come from a tough background, what advice would you give them to get into golf?
I think what we were talking about earlier, with 150 pounds, it's hard to, but you can have an experience here that wouldn't cost you that. So coming to a place like Pitch or another simulator and going and trying it. The difficulty is that you want to go and try and do that with somebody that feels comfortable to you, so they can go, like, well, this is how you do it, and this is how you hold the club, or, wait till he clears the green part so you don't hit him in the head.
Yeah.
And like I have that thing in my sim. Nobody's on the green. Like, because you get excited, you just like back it up and you like hit somebody in the face, right?
Yeah.
But it's affordable at that price to come to a sim, and I think places like Pitch and other sims have to find a way to make that available to people.
Yeah.
And then we have to be the ones to sort of bring them in so they can have the experience in a comfortable and safe environment where they go, okay, all right, so I'm gonna pick the 7. No, you want the P. Yeah. Or I'm gonna take the big mallet. I'm like, yeah,
just to
no,
guide you.
Yeah. Let's start with the 7. Yeah.
Just guide you, don't they, in the right direction?
Yeah, and it can be any of us on an open day, or or friends or whatever. And I've taken a bunch of kids, and they're like, at first they're like, and then they're like, oh, I got this.
Yeah, they understand it
they
now.
smack a 7-iron. They're like,
Because
I'm
everyone
ready for the
picks it up
driver.
and thinks, I need to I'm
Lash
strong.
it, yeah.
I need to try and hit this, grip it really hard and hit it
Yeah.
as hard as I can. But golf is one of them beautiful sports where it's just about technique.
Yeah.
Like you see, like even when you play, sometimes you say I'm gonna hit it and you hit it, but generally you're like hit the ball and it just looks really smooth and effortless, and you get down there and it's like 320 yards. It's like.
And speaking of yardages, actually, Rick, you've been in the gym this morning? Are you feeling quite loose?
Yeah. Oh, you want to go hit some
Are you
balls?
feeling loose? Though?
Yeah.
We've got the
I'm
longest
loose
drive
enough.
challenge.
So we got a challenge this season's his longest drive.
Well, I can tell you it's not going to work because you haven't had anyone in 6'10" in here. You had Crouchy in, but I was in those things and I'm like, I can't get the driver up here.
All right, we're gonna have to raise the ceiling, guys.
Or I'm going to have to flat swing it and just try to rifle in there. That's the problem. When I built the one at home, like I spent so much time. I have a room downstairs where I have the ceiling height clearance, but I've been in other places where I'm like, kunk.
Yeah.
You can't hit the ball here for real.
With a driver, like
we'll
I
have
end
a
up feeling like I got to shorten my driver swing. And
Bay 1 or 2 might be a bit taller, so we'll go and find out. We'll have a look.
We'll try that.
Yeah. If it's too tall, we'll
have to get back out of the course.
well, we are going to get on the golf course. That's a deal, right?
All right.
Deal.
All right. Cheers,
We're
Rick.
gonna find a
so
date.
much.
Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Such good hearing stories as well. Let's go see if we can do the longest drive.
Let's do it.
Right, guys, so the next guest up, Rick, is taken to the stage for our long drive competition. I'm not going to tell you what's leading right now.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
Yeah, it's
Because then I'll just jump out of it. I didn't actually wear the right shoe wear. I wore the good shoe.
I'll be honest with you, Rick, it's one I didn't expect either.
Really?
It's one I didn't
See,
expect.
this is the problem, is technology is just so good.
But remember earlier when we were speaking about technique, right?
Yeah.
You've got that in abundance. So no excuses today, no excuses.
You know what it is? I like to make the ball disappear. I don't care where it starts. Right? Just remember that.
Okay, come on then, Rick.
All right.
First one, we got 3 shots then.
All right.
That's nice
That's
as
the
well.
one. That's gone high as well, nice. Is it a bit more out the top of the club?
That's there. That's the
That's
that's
one he
carry
was chatting
250.
about. Oh, it was
Keep running.
soft roll.
Yeah, it was too high.
Them fairways are soft, isn't it?
It's on soft conditions.
Right there.
Oh yeah. You get that one?
Tell you what, Rick,
a
you're
little bit
so
off the top.
straight
You
though.
are straight, ain't you?
Very straight.
Off the top. Go, go! Yeah.
It's just landing. Soft.
Soft.
Little back foot runner.
This one's gonna roll. Oh yeah. You got that?
Nah, still felt a little fluffy.
Everyone is in there.
Rolling out. Ooh. That's the longest of the 3 though.
260.
60 mark.
260.
Should we blame the club?
Yeah.
You blame the club.
I gave it a run. They're in the fairway.
Thanks,
By the way,
Rick.
they all look like birdie.
That is
I was
straight
gonna,
birdie
down.
canvas.
I'm gonna
Straight.
say that if anyone this season can keep all of them in the zone as
Yeah.
well, I'll give it to them.
They
'Cause
haven't?
That was impressive.
Yeah.
They haven't. Seriously.
No,
No.
the one that's leading so far. Was it?
Lasted 2 out.
Lasted 2 out and got 1 in, and it was
One.
close in as well. It was close to the line.
Yeah. It was
Right, give me one more
370.
swing that doesn't.